Hello fellow YouTube surfers, my name is Gundam Academy. I've always been interested in Gundam since young. Now building Gunpla, watching his anime, reading his manga, dreaming about piloting a Gundam myself, and playing with my Gunpla until their joints worn out or parts getting broken. I could never get enough of Gundam. Now when Gundam card game was introduced in the teaser video, which I've just shown you earlier, I was instantly drawn to this card game. Now after playing it for several months, I think Gundam card game has a lot of potential because it's a card game that does not really have a meta. You can have the best deck, most optimum deck build, but it could break from time to time. Imagine drawing into a hand of 5 pilots after mulliganing, or 5 level 8 Gundam units, or not finding the right pilots or base when you need one, or having command cards burst from your shield. Even the best meta deck could lose from time to time, even 5 games in a row. Every night when I play, I'm always surprised at the different decks built by the players in my locals. It is definitely challenging my deck building skill, trying to balance the ratio of pilots, units, command, and base. Hence, I want to start this channel to share about what I've learned from time to time about this card game, how the meta evolves over time, deck building, how to sequence your cards, etc. I'll also be filming myself opening booster boxes, starter decks, showcasing my gameplay through Mobile Suit Arena, walking you through what goes through my head when making each play, etc. I hope this channel will grow and eventually reach the heart of fellow Gundam lovers around the world, especially for new players. Now for my first video with Steel Requeim, which is the 3rd set releasing, I'd like to do a quick recap of the existing Gundam card game meta, and we'll see how Steel Requeim will shake up the meta. Without further ado, let's begin. Now when Gundam Beta Box was released in early 2025, we were introduced to Grandpa Gundam with Amuro Ray, Wing Gundam with Hiro Yui, L Strike Gundam with Kira Yamato. Only 3 colors were introduced and each color has a very specific mechanic. Blue enables resting of opponent units, drawing additional cards and repair, which is healing your units at the end of the turn. Green enables ramping of the resources, high maneuver which ignores blockers and breach, which is penetrating damage when the opponent units are destroyed. White enables blocking, cycling through cards and bouncing off units back to their owner's hand. Now I've mentioned quite a lot of technical jargon specific to Gundam card game. Unfortunately, I won't be doing any beginner's tutorial on how this game works because Bandai has done an amazing job making one which is perfect for beginners. I'll put the link to the video in the description section of this video. Feel free to check it out. Let's continue on through the Gundam card game's memory lane. Now since Gundam card game deck building rule only allows 2 colors per deck, players very quickly realized that 2 specific pairs are the most viable deck, and a pseudo-meta deck was born. Blue-White Gundam Blockers, which focuses on blocking, building a large hand size, and surviving until the late game, when you have all the cards to rest the opponent's units are in your hand and deal a very devastating blow to his or her opponent. Amuro Ray was able to rest opponent's units while L Strike bounces the enemy's units and Kira Yamato reduces the attack strength of the enemy unit. Next one would be Green-White Wing Blockers, which focuses on blocking and ramping in early turns to get to the late game as fast as possible and finish the game before your opponent can react. Now Wing Gundam was able to tag an active unit with a stat line of 7-7 after linking with Hiro Yui is very devastating, while L Strike bounces the opponent's units and Kira Yamato reduces the attack strength of the enemy's units. Now these are some of the honorary cards that were printed in the beta box, other than the 6 cards mentioned earlier. Shah Zakutu, together with Shah Aznable, which enables high maneuver, and when it is destroyed, it creates a 3-1 token body to replace itself. This is very crucial during the beta time to keep chipping away at your opponent's shield. Then there's Wing Gundam, the bird mode, which is the only card in the game then to ram your resources. Gun Tank, which is seen in almost every blue variation deck and is able to ping 1 damage to a rested enemy unit. This 1 damage is sometimes very crucial to take an enemy out just by developing a fresh body on your side of the field without engaging in a battle. Then we have Roselle and Galgut. vanilla 4-3 units with no special abilities. Now, due to lack of card pool during the beta time, it is good to just play cards with amazing stat line. Hence, these two cards are seen almost in every deck. Zakuto, which allows it to be a 3-2, then allows you to take out the original enemy base to begin exerting pressure from turn 2 onwards, setting the tempo of the game, demanding a quick answer from your opponent. Shore of Resolve, featuring Audrey Byrne from Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, is basically a must-have a few copies in any blue deck. Just like Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is like Pot of Greed, which allows a player to draw 2 cards. I can't stress enough the importance of drawing cards in a card game. The more cards you have, the higher chance you have in winning the game. This is seen in Pokemon, Magic, Lorcana, etc. Then, finally, we have Overflowing Affection, featuring Lux Klein from Gundam Seed. Now, this card allows you to draw 2 cards, but since you have to discard 1 card, you're essentially just cycling through your deck without increasing your hand size. During late game, a lot of times this card is crucial in helping player find a pilot or a unit to achieve a link pair to immediately attack an opponent's shield or base and end a game. This was the best deck build that I played a lot during the beta time. It's basically just playing the best cards in the format with the best stats. Nothing fancy. Now in July 2025, finally after 6 months playing with the beta decks, 4 starter decks were released to the public. We have STO1 Heroic Beginning, which introduces Gundam Aerial Permet Score 6 with Soleta Mercury. Then we have STO2 Wings of Advance, which introduces Torgis and Zex Marquis. We have STO3 Zion's Rush, which introduces Sananju with Full Frontal, and Shah Zakuto, which link with Shah Aznable from the beta edition. Then finally we have STO4 Seed Strike, which introduces Aegis Gundam and Asran Zala. In these 4 starter decks, specifically STO3 and STO4, the 4th color was introduced, which is red, which also introduced a new mechanic somewhat, which is known as pinging damage to an opponent's unit once specific condition is met, without needing to directly have the opponent's unit fight with the player's unit fight with the opponent's unit. Since there was only 2 weeks before GDO1 New Type Rising was released, the meta did not really change. Blue-white and green-white were really still the dominant color pairs, and even as players tried to play red-green, as shown in S303, the result was not very convincing. Red-white was doing much better with the help of blockers to survive until late game. With these, players soon realized the importance of blockers in this game. Regardless, I will show you several cards from the ST that have helped define the meta over the next few months. For STO1, they introduced 2 cards, which have been crucial in defining the meta. First, we have Zaward, which is just an amazing blocker with 2/3/2 stat line and can play in your turn 2. While it may not be able to attack your enemy's base or shield, it's perfect to keep aggressive decks in check. Then we have Unforeseen Incident, which allows you to turn a bad trade into a good trade in your favor as an action card. A lot of time, this card has helped me turn the tide of a game, allowing my unit to take down multiple enemy units before being destroyed. For STO2, it has released by far the best base for blue colors, Corsica base, which allows you to put down either 1 Tolgis or 2 Leos. Often, when I play this and my opponent has no way to handle the tokens immediately, I'll be able to swing them all at my enemy's shield to chip away their shield as much as possible. Now, Tolgis has 4 attack points as well, which is not something to be underestimated. For STO3, 2 cards were released, which have had an impact on the meta for the longest time. Shah Zakuto, which allow you to grab another Xeon unit when it's destroyed, allowing itself to be replaced. Now, STO3 has also released the best command card for red, Close Combat, that deals 2 damages to any 1 enemy unit, which could potentially take an enemy unit out quickly at the beginning of the game. It can also be burst from the shield, allowing it to come into effect free of charge when your opponent least expect it, allowing you to turn the tide of a game easily. Now, STO4 has also released the best command card for white, which you will see in any white meta deck, Striker Pact, which allows you to deploy a 3/3 L strike if the card is activated due to a burst effect from the shield. But if you play it from your hand, it could be a 4/2 Sword Strike or a 2/4 Launcher Strike. Honestly, depending on your opponent's deck, I will choose very carefully between Sword Strike or Launcher Strike. I love this card so much because it truly reflects the capability of Strike Gundam, just like in the anime series Gundam Seed. Then GDO1, New Type Rising was released at the end of July. 5 specific Gundam series were the focal point. We have Mobile Suit Gundam, which focuses on Earth Federation and Xeon. We have Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, which introduces civilian trait and Neo Xeon. We have Mobile Suit Gundam Witch from Mercury, which focuses on the Academy of Vanadis. Even though it was actually just one card for Vanadis, this card actually proved to be the most pivotal card in the game to survive until the late game, even until today. Then we have Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, which focuses on Earth Alliance and Zav. And we have Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, which focuses on Operation Meteor and Oz. This is the spread of each series and trait to specific color. So if you're interested only in building a deck revolving around Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, you're automatically narrowed into blue-green. Now feel free to pause here or come back later at the time to check out this picture again. Now I'll now quickly go through the various meta-defining cards that have been seen in various meta decks. Basically a must-have if you are just starting out as a new player. So hint, if you are starting out, get these cards. It's going to help you develop your meta decks in the long run. Now for blue, alongside similar to the Gun Tank which was already released in the beta version, the game introduces Angsha, another unit capable to ping 1 damage to a rested enemy unit. This 1 damage, similar to the Gun Tank, can be very crucial at times to take an enemy out just by dropping a fresh body on your side of the field without engaging in a battle. With GDO1 release, several cards got the attention of players almost immediately, and the best card in the format until today, out of all of those cards, is quickly determined and confirmed. It is none other than Wing Zero. Wing Gundam Zero is crazy. Once deployed, it deals 3 damages to all units level 5 or below, which can be very devastating during the late game, especially against blockers or aggressive decks, and swinging the tempo of a game very quickly. I can never forget how good it feels when I drop Wing Zero and clear my opponent's field and watching their face turn pale, because just when my opponent is about to win, I just basically reset the whole game for them. Now this unit also has high maneuver, which makes it a perfect unit to clear base and shield, while ignoring any onboard blockers. Now in order to take it out, typically your opponent has to burn 2 cards at a minimum, which makes it a very good trade on my end. Talking about trade, the next card from GD1 has also helped me turn the tides of several games. When you manage to link this Wing Gundam Zero with Hero Yui, it becomes an 8-9 monster on the battlefield, which until today it is recognized by every player in the game to be the best card in the entire game. Now, the next card that I'll be mentioning, actually it's a combo of 2 cards. It's a crazy combo, which is Gundam Deathside and Duo Maxwell. This is a crazy combo, especially if you manage to pull it off. This card's combo serves 3 purposes. First, it has First Strike. With an attack strength of 6, it is not something to be ignored. Most units in the game will be taken out by Deathside linked with Duo. Typically, players would have Hero Yui in the deck as well, so pairing it with Hero Yui allows Gundam Deathside to reach a stat line of 7-5, which is definitely able to take down any enemy unit without getting damaged since it has First Strike. However, with Hero Yui, you will have to just wait for 1 more turn. Now, either linking with Duo or pairing with Hero, it helps ramp your resources from 6 to 7, so that the next turn, you can actually drop your 8 cost Wing Gundam Zero from your hand to clear your opponent's board. Finally, if you manage to link with Duo, you can be sure that you'll be hitting 6 damage with no concern of AP reduction. A lot of times, your opponent will need 2 cards to answer this combo. Now for red, there's Kshatriya and Merida Cruz. Once paired or linked with Merida Cruz, Kshatriya can ping 1 damage to 2 opponent units without any restriction. Now with Merida Cruz linked to it, Kshatriya can further ping 1 more damage to an opponent's unit with level 5 or below, which could turn the tide of a game very quickly, as this mechanic allows Kshatriya to clear multiple units without engaging in a fight, and this pinging will keep on working every turn so long as this unit survives. Now for the red cards, the command card Battle of Aces are played quite heavily in any red deck, as it allows you to do 3 damages on an already damaged enemy unit, which could be a total of 4 damage that could easily take down any enemy unit in the earlier rounds. Even during the late game, this card could turn the tide by taking down a big boss unit without engaging in a battle. Now if you could play this card alongside with Close Combat, you're dealing 5 damages that can take down almost all the different cards in the current format, especially when my opponent plays the Grandpa Gundam together with Amuro Ray, hoping to buff the other units on the board. you drop these 2 cards, it dies off. The rest of the cards are not going to get that +1 AP, basically resetting the tempo for my opponent itself. So these 2 cards has actually helped me a lot. Then there's Freedom Gundam. Once paired, he can reduce any opponent's attack point by 2, which could be critical to swing the tempo of a game. Furthermore, it is the biggest blocker in the game by far. If you ever find yourself in a game with several Freedom Gundam staring at you, blocking your path to victory, trust me, it's really intimidating. Once linked with Kira Yamato from STO4, the additional 2 attack point reduction allows Freedom to clear almost all the units in the game without incurring much damage to itself. Besides Freedom Gundam, Justice Gundam was also introduced. Now, Justice Gundam allows the player to put out 2 units in the field by paying just 5 costs, which is very cost effective. A large 5/5 unit with a 2/2 blocker, basically a 7/7 in total. Until today, you'll see Freedom and Justice played a lot in a lot of decks, so long as white is used. Now these days, Justice is played more than Freedom, because with the same cost, you are getting 2 bodies with Justice than just 1 large blocker. Now Justice is especially crazy when you manage to link it with Aslan Zala from STO4, because even the Fatum 00 is able to swing in towards your opponent as well. A lot of times, these 2 card combo at the very end, when my opponent has a base with no more shield, I can swing with both bodies, and I'm pretty sure to be winning the game, almost guaranteed. Then there's Sword Strike Gundam. This card links with both Kira Yamato and Mula Flaga. While this card is perfect at bouncing a low cost unit of 2 HP, usually targeting token units, I've always had a mixed feeling about this card. In order for it to be effective, the deck will have to splash in Mula Flaga to improve the deck's consistency, which actually takes up space. Instead, I very much prefer Launcher Strike Gundam. For the same cost and stat line, this is because Launcher Strike Gundam is already a blocker even if it's not paired or linked. Very effective. Talking about blockers, the next most critical card and really the best stat blocker is Gundam Lefrith from the Vanadis Institute, which I mentioned earlier. Thanks to Lefrith, it allowed decks like Gundam White Wing Zero survive, Green-White Wing Zero deck survive during the early game against aggro deck by maximizing the trade of 2 opponents' units to 1 of your own. This card alone has carried most of the heavy blocker focused decks. Now after the release of GDO1, players quickly discovered the 4 main viable decks in the competitive scene. Coincidentally, the 4 meta decks form a circular meta. Now inherited from the beta deck and upgraded with Wing Gundam Zero, we have the infamous Green-White Wing Gundam Zero deck, which is frequently seen winning in locals and regionals. Then similar to the beta deck format, an upgraded Freedom Blocker deck was born. It's a very heavy blocker deck where its player will attempt to trade effectively and find opportunities from turn to turn to chip away at the opponent's base and shield until they achieve victory. However, this deck is typically weak against Wing Gundam Zero because green units tend to have a huge stat line, like an 8/9 link Wing Gundam Zero with Hero Yui. Then there is the Red Blue Pink featuring the units from Gundam Mobile Suit Unicorn, where the deck focuses on winning without attacking your enemy's units, rather than destroying them just via pinging damage. Due to the small card pool size, there is still a very limited amount of cards that could ping, and blue typically requires the enemy unit to be rested, so it typically loses to the Freedom Blocker deck. Finally, we have the 4th deck, which is the infamously known as the 1-Year War deck, which is basically a very aggressive deck, which aims at winning the game by turn 4 or 5 before your opponent manages to bring out the big boss Gundam. Most of the units in this deck are just level 3 or lower, so if you manage to draw perfectly, and I'm gonna highlight, if you manage to draw perfectly, you curve out your mana, your resources perfectly, some might consider this a hyper-aggressive deck. It has a decent chance of winning against Green-White Wing Zero deck, however, emphasis on his, however, if your opponent manages to stabilize the board beyond turn 5, basically they manage to put down enough blocker to block your aggressive units, the 1-Year War deck typically loses. So I'll consider this deck as quite a bit of a high rolling in the meta. Then in October, 3 months after the release of GDO1, 2 more starter decks were released. STO5 also called Iron Bloom, which introduces Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans into the Gundam card game, the 5th color to the Gundam card game, purple, and a new mechanic called Suppression, enabling you to take 2 shields simultaneously, which could turn the tide of a game very quickly. And then we also have STO6, also called Clan Unity, which basically introduces Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quarks into the game as well. Within the two starter decks, only STO5 has introduced a card which is very interesting in defining the meta, which is Fatal Strike, allowing you to destroy a level 3 or lower enemy unit. Now during late game, you could use this card to destroy several blockers in the game, such as Lefrith and Striker Pack tokens, etc. Now with the blockers out of the way, you can easily swing your entire board at your opponent to win the game. Now 2 weeks after release of STL5 and STL6, GDO2 was released in the month of October as well, called Dual Impact. Now GDO2 introduces 3 new series in the Gundam card game, with Gundam X, Gundam H, and Z Gundam, while reinforcing the existing series and the 2 new series from STO5 and STO6. Dual Impact was said to be very impactful for the current meta. However, that may not be the case. Now this is the spread of each series and trait to specific color. Feel free to pause here or come back at a later time to check out this picture again. Now this new set has disappointed many of the players because most of the cards were quite mid with no real meta defining cards. For blue, Gundam Epion was released, which has an amazing ability, don't get me wrong, to restand when one of your unit manages to destroy an enemy unit for 1 time per turn. Very useful. When linked with Zeg Marquis from STO2, it really becomes a powerhouse, enabling you to draw 1 card each time Gundam Epion destroys an enemy unit. Now this combo is really amazing, especially during late game. If you manage to draw 2 cards while destroying 2 enemy units, potentially a 3rd and a 4th, you could basically draw so many cards which also replaces itself and turn the tide of the game to your favor. Now even so, it will not be a match to a Link 8-9 Wing Gundam 0. Hence, if you're playing Wing Gundam 0 and your opponent is playing Gundam Epion, you just avoid allowing any of your unit getting rested during the game and only swing with the Link Wing Gundam 0. This is why this card never really made it into the meta. I wonder when they released the Gundam Epion after Wing Gundam 0 from SGDO1, were they stated so perfectly so that after linking, it's able to kind of replicate how in the movie where Wing Gundam 0 always topped Gundam Epion? I wonder. Now for red, GDO2 has also released Cubele together with Haman Khan, which is very devastating during the game, if you manage to link it. Now not only does Cubele achieve suppression during the turn it's linked together with Haman Khan, which is its pilot, they are able to deal 3 damage to any enemy unit, which could potentially destroy 1 unit while taking down 2 shields simultaneously, or destroy 2 units simultaneously and turn the tide of the game in your favor. Now the introduction of Cubele and the red-white Neo Zeon deck was born. As you can see here, if you're able to draw perfectly into these 3 sets of units and their pilots, you can essentially sequence it this way. Turn 5, put some damages on your opponent's unit with Kshatriya and Merida Cruz. Then in your turn 6, you drop your Sunanju and full frontal, allowing them to gain high maneuver, swing into your enemy unit, take it down, put 2 more damages to something on top of what Kshatriya and Merida Cruz has already put on. Then, at your turn 7, deal 3 damages to any enemy unit with suppression to take down 2 enemy shields at the same time with Cubele and Haman Khan. Basically, very devastating if you manage to pull off this entire sequence. Now, in order to survive to turn 5, blockers will be played during the first 4 turns. As you can see, this deck requires a lot of cards to achieve the right effect. If not, it could actually be quite difficult to pull off in a game. Hence, this deck never made it to the meta, even though it was really, really fun when you managed to set up all 3 units with their pilots. Because by that time, whatever your opponent put down, any unit they drop, it will just be easily destroyed by your unit without attacking into them. Just ping damage when you attack into their shield, you already killed all their units already. Basically, your opponent is locked out from playing the game with once these 3 are being set up. Now with the introduction of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, GDO2 introduces the Gundam Barbatos First Form, which allows your opponent to draw a card when this unit is damaged, essentially replacing itself. This is an amazing card and will see play in any Gundam Barbatos purple deck. The damage can be easily achieved with the help of his pilot Mikazuki August. Now similar to GDO1 introducing the best blocker in the game, Gundam Lefrith, GDO2 actually introduces the second best blocker in the game, Rigdias, with a stat line of 3-3, slightly better than Zowon from STO1, and he can attack an enemy's base and shield. Now this card has seen play in any white blocker deck, both green-white Wing Gundam 0 deck and blue-white Freedom blocker deck. If you are starting as a new player, definitely get 4 cards of this. Finally, GDO2 has also introduced a new base called Argama, which prevents enemy effect damage, in other words, effect damage as a result of breaching. Many white decks begin playing this card in their deck to slow down the green-white Wing Gundam Zero deck, targeting Wing Gundam because Wing Gundam has the breach ability, the card that was released since the beta deck itself. It has been in the meta up to GDO2. As you can see, there's barely any meta-defining cards in GDO2, Dual Impact. Not very impactful in my opinion, as well as I believe most players will also have the same opinion. Remember the circular meta that we had after GDO1 was released? Now after GDO2 was released, not much was changed, except that the red-blue-pink was replaced by purple-blue-pink deck, focusing more on Barbatos and Grandpa Gundam, so the circular meta still remains even after GDO2 was released. Now with the new sets Steel Requeim being released, are you guys excited? I'm actually very, very excited to explore this uncharted water and find out what will be the next meta. Will Wing Gundam Zero still be reigning at the top, or will someone finally manage to crack the code and define the new meta? Now from this video onwards, I'll begin posting more videos on a weekly basis to show the various decks that have been made more competitive, how they can be played, some gameplays on Mobile Suit Arena, opening several booster boxes, showcase some of my games on Mobile Suit Arena, how I sequence my gameplay, couple of tiering of the different meta decks. Could be quite fun. I hope that it will help you guys all in your journey in the Gundam card game. So please subscribe to my video, to my channel, so that you will be notified for any of my upcoming new videos. Please kindly share my video with your friends and families, especially those who are interested in getting into the game but don't know how. So thank you very much for watching till the end. I will see you in my upcoming videos. Until then, ciao!